Snapshot 2 old errors will get only for the select statements, and those two for long running select statements. So in order to avoid snapshot 2 old errors, we have seen in our previous discussion that we have to increase the size, the commit as frequently as possible. One of the things that I have seen which really works fine, if there is a coordination between the guys who are running a nightly load jobs. They are loading huge amount of data, modifying huge amount of data, and at the same time the jobs to generate reports. If both of them are running at the same time, then the reporting jobs, because reporting is only SQL select statement, report is only select statement, those guys will get the snapshot 2 old error. So you should always kind of reporting team and the data loading team should work in a different time frame. So first load the data, finish that up till 2 o'clock in the night, and then reports should start from maybe 2:30, and that will make sure the reports will run properly. So if you kind of misalign them time wise, then snapshot 2 old error will not come to the actual guys, the reporting guys. Now some of the data dictionary views that I want to kind of undo. Data dictionary views. Data dictionary views are DBA underscore rollback segs. In the previous versions of Oracles, this undo was called as rollback. So that's why you will still see many data dictionary reports with the rollback. So they were called as rollback segments, now they are called as undo segments. So this data dictionary view will show you how many undo segments are available in your database. How many undo segments are available in your database? All of these undo segments are going to be inside the undo table space here, right here, in that undo table space. Select count will give you that thing. Now there will be, so it will show the name of the undo segment. So what is a segment? Segment is just something, we have seen table is a, we have seen that. Index is a segment. Anything that requires a disk space is a segment. Inside a segment there are extents. Inside the extents there are blocks. We have seen this 10 times. So undo segment is also some space inside the undo table space. So all these undo tables, undo segments or rollback segments, they are inside the undo table space. One thing to remember very importantly, that when I start my transaction by that insert or update or delete command, I will be automatically assigned an undo segment for keeping my undo data. Now what if this undo segment is small enough and it cannot accommodate my data and I am deleting huge amount of data? Then the undo segment will grow. It will add one more extent. Then still it is not big enough. It will still add one more extent and one more extent, and likewise this undo segment will grow. Up till what point? Until the point that this entire undo table space is now filled. Just like our table. As we are adding more and more data to the table, the extents will be allocated, and then it will go on till what time? It will go on till the time the whole table space becomes full. Maybe there is an auto extend on and all that stuff is there. This can also be done for undo segment also. It's a table space. So the point here is, as we need more and more data to be saved in the undo table space, because my transaction is deleting huge amount of data or updating a lot of data, the undo segment will grow. Once it grows, in my undo segment, so now I'm going to draw this undo table space. This is my undo table space. This is my first undo segment. It is made up of two extents. My undo data is coming over here. Actually it will come from here to here, and then all these blocks are filled. Then I go to the next one, all these blocks are filled, and then this is full, so it will allocate one more, then it will allocate one more. But now as you can see, as I require more and more data, there might be some already existing other transaction, not my transaction, other transaction which might be assigned to the same undo. So it's not just my transaction which gets assigned to undo segment number 1, your transaction will also get assigned to the same undo segment. So point to remember here, that two distinct or different transactions can get assigned to the same undo segment, and therefore your delete blocks, before image of delete blocks, will be right next to my before image of my delete blocks. So we are going to share the undo segment, not the undo table space. We are anyway sharing undo table space. We are also going to share the undo segments. So again I will repeat the point, that two distinct transactions may be assigned same undo segment. That is point number 1. So 2 transactions or multiple transactions, one undo segment. This can happen. Therefore, my undo will be sitting right next to your undo. Second point to remember is that, as I said, I require more and more undo space. So I am growing and then the growth is now limited because there is no more space here. Then what will that undo do? It will find out, has any other transaction finished? Is this undo block expired? Is this undo block expired from other transaction? My transaction is still going on, so my blocks are not expired anymore. So if there is not enough space over here left for the growth, it will start overwriting on this expired blocks. This is where your undo retention probably will come into the picture. If your undo retention is set to 900 seconds, then it will check, is this block expired in the last 900 seconds? If it is expired in the last 900 seconds, it will probably give the first preference to the growth instead of overwriting on that. Thing. So point here is, again, the growth will happen when there is no space to grow, then it will come and start overwriting on this expired block. So this happens in a kind of a round robin way. Same undo segment is kind of used if the space is free. Now, what if there is another undo segment? This is undo segment 1, undo segment number 1. Now there is another undo segment here, and this undo segment is almost free because other guys who were assigned that undo segment, their transaction is finished and they have committed their data. Their transactions are finished and they have committed their data. So all the blocks in this undo segment, they are expired, because the data has been committed by those guys. The transaction is finished. So now there is no space left. So this is the third one. Maybe this is the third undo segment. But now, so this is the second undo segment, this is the third undo segment, this is the fourth undo segment, and likewise this is for first undo segment, second extent of the first undo, 1 1 1. Now, even though these 3 are free because all the transactions in those have been committed, I don't have any growth left, room left for the growth of 1, and therefore can my transaction use the space in segment number 2? The answer is no. So let me repeat the second thing that I just said, that only one undo segment or undo for one transaction. So once I am assigned undo segment number 1, till my transaction finishes, I will be assigned 1. Even if there is space available in 2 or 3 or 4, I will not be able to use that. This is how the architecture is there. Why not use second and third? I think internally it is probably very difficult algorithms to kind of manage all those things. So Oracle says, once I am assigning you undo segment number 1, till you finish your transaction, you will be with undo segment number 1. When you finish your transaction, the blocks will be expired.
But if my transaction needs more undo block, it will take next segment.
No, it will never ever. So this is the thing. Even if all these things are free, my undo segment will not be able to grow because it is reserved by them, and therefore my delete statement will fail. My update statement will fail because I don't have enough undo space to put my modified data. This is again a very common problems that you will get at the beginning of your career, that not enough undo. Because somebody is deleting huge amount of data. Why am I saying delete all the time? Delete generates huge amount of undo. Then the next is update. Update generates little less amount of undo, and the least amount of undo is generated by the insert. Least amount of undo is generated by the insert. So you can insert a huge amount of rows, the undo generation would be little less, but if you start deleting huge amount of data, your undo generation will be very high. So delete generates huge amount of undo.
So sir, truncate can you use in case of delete?
No, truncate is not at all a DML. So truncate has nothing to do with undo. Truncate doesn't require undo, and therefore we cannot use rollback. Undo and rollback, you just think of this thing, undo and rollback, they will always go hand in hand. If you can roll back a transaction, that means undo is required. Do we require undo for select? No, because it's a select, no data modification. Do we require or can we roll back a drop table command?
No.
I have just dropped a table. Can I type roll back and will I get my table back?
Yes.
Huh?
No. Yes.
Yes or no? Yes. No, the answer is no. The answer is no, that when you drop a table, then you cannot type a rollback, or if you type a rollback, nothing will be rolled back. If you type a rollback, the table will not come back because it is a DDL. Drop table, create table, all those things are DDL, and rollback commands won't be able to work. What is the meaning of DDL? It means the moment you type that command, immediately after that, a commit is fired. Explicitly committed. Auto committed, yeah, whatever you want to call that. So the drop table will be immediately committed, and therefore it is as if like the drop table command has been fired. Immediately after that is the commit command that has been fired. So we actually don't fire that command, but it is as if we are firing the commit command immediately after the drop table, and therefore firing the rollback command will not make any difference because we have already done a commit. And that is what a DDL is. All DDLs are auto committed. All DDLs are auto committed. So undo doesn't come into the picture when we are talking about truncate, which is also a DDL, when we talk about create table, drop table, any DDLs. So all undo discussion is focusing on only inserts, updates and deletes. That's it.
So only one undo segment is for one transaction, basically.
Only one undo. So let us say I'm logged into the database and I am going to fire either insert or update or delete. Therefore I am going to start my transaction, and therefore I need an undo segment for keeping my undo data. So Oracle will assign arbitrarily, using their internal algorithm, a undo segment for my transaction, which means what? I can keep my undo tables, undo data in that segment. Then you come in, you start here, he starts his another transaction. He will be assigned maybe the same undo segment or maybe a different undo segment. But once that undo segment is assigned to his transaction, till he finishes his transaction, it will be the same undo segment. So once it is assigned, it is only one. So that means only one undo segment for one transaction. It means even if your transaction is fully occupying your undo segment, it will not be kind of overlapping the second undo segment, even if there is enough space. So that is what the meaning of this thing. Only one undo segment for one transaction means even if there is enough space in the second undo segment, I will not be going and keeping my data in the second undo segment. Only one. That is what the meaning of this. I don't know if it is clear or not.
Is there any specific each user will get only one segment?
Each transaction. Okay, if I log in at 1 o'clock and I start one transaction, that means I do an insert and then an update, then a delete, and for that transaction I get undo segment 1, and then I fire a commit. My transaction is finished, my undo is expired. After I'm logged in still in the same session, and then little later on after 2 o'clock I again start another transaction. That time I may be assigned segment number 2. So undo segment is not assigned per session, it is assigned per transaction.
So for that transaction only one undo segment?
Only one undo segment. Only one undo segment.
One transaction is more than the required space.
Then the transaction will fail. So basically if the transaction requires more space than what is available to him, then the transaction will fail. And in fact, I want you guys to do this thing for our database that we have created recently. What is the size of undo that you created? What was the size of the undo table space? 5 MB. Okay, this is a perfect. 5 MB is a very small table space. Within 5 MB, there will be 10 segments that will be created at least. Now, what I would like you to do is create another table in maybe a user table space and make it a huge table. Make it a 100 MB table. Okay, everything is done, and at that time you come and start deleting from that table. You start your transaction now. So you start deleting from a very huge table, 100 MB table. What is going to happen? You will be assigned one undo segment in that 5 megabyte undo table space, and your data will start coming over here. Your undo segment will start growing, and finally it will not be able to fit in the entire 5 megabyte undo table space, and what will happen? Your delete will fail. Your delete will fail. And what error message will you get? Unable to extend, or sorry, unable to allocate undo segment. unable to allocate an extent in the undo table space. That is what the correct message is. So your deletes will fail, your updates will fail if there is not enough undo space. Okay, so we will now move